send back your children back to school? This is the question you should be asking yourself this morning, and this also goes not only to the parents but also the guardians, because some of you may be guardians out there to your siblings, to your family members. But all in all, we hope you're ready to also to send them back to school. And I must also ensure to ask you, if at all you are not prepared, to make sure that within these remaining days, let's send them back to school, because we shall be seeing school opening very soon, and I don't know some of the schools have already reopened amidst also the warning from education stakeholders. But all in all, we hope you as the viewer is ready to make sure that your child is not going to be missing out. My name is Farish Majid. I know it's been a while without also appearing here, but all in all, I want to assure you we are back, bigger and also better, to also let you know of what's happening in the corridors of current affairs. Also in the world of news, I will be breaking down on some of the stories here each and every mornings. That is from Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And I will be also on some occasions inviting some guests also with whom we shall be dissecting some of the issues here and there. This is all to make sure that you as the viewer of Western Television is not left out. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome you on board from wherever you're watching us from. It could be here within Western sub-region, in Acholi, in Lango, in Karamoja, and entire northern Uganda. I want to say thank you so much, not forgetting those in the eastern part of this country, as well as those in western. I want to also welcome you on board in a special way, because some of you could be watching us, and really on some occasions we are called that there are people who are watching us in Chegegwa, there are people watching us in Polisa, in Hoima. That's quite good. It's quite interesting to always receive such feedback that also we have people who can watch us in all those parts. And for those who are watching us abroad, that is also across the country, in South Sudan and in DRC, where there is an insurgency, we hope also really that you are safe and safely watching us in there. And all in all, so many things have happened, and so many things will continue to happen in this country. I will be also really touching on some of those few as we proceed with the stories. And just a few days after being sworn in, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump was able to also see the freezing of almost all foreign aid. That is also something which we did see happening, where the U.S. Department also has frozen nearly all foreign assistance worldwide, also effectively, also immediately in their days after President Donald Trump also issued a sweeping executive order on Monday to also put a hold on such also aid for 90 days. And what does it mean to also Uganda as a country? I don't want to talk on behalf of the whole world, but I want to show you that in Uganda, US said, which also has been instrumental in supporting the country in so many initiatives, is among those entities that is affected, whereby 1.8 billion US dollars will not also be received. And what does it mean to the country, where we have been dependent on almost everything when it comes to also health? We have been depending on that, because we all know what USAID has been instrumental when it comes to issues of addressing concern of HIV/AIDS. We have known how US, of course, has been there, and now that the cut is also going to be affected, which is not actually very far, it will be also infected also, I do understand, from February. That means we shall be seeing money that USAID has been giving the country in terms of support will not be receiving that fund anymore, and this is for a period of 90 days. What does it mean when it comes to issues of HIV/AIDS, where USAID has been very much instrumental in supporting this health sector? What about malaria? We all know where it has been also really very, very much instrumental in there, and so many entities, of course, are going to be affected, and many of those civil society organizations that have been also really spearheading some of these initiatives are going to be affected. And in one of these days, I will be bringing one of the officials from Civil Society Network to also come and also dissect on this issue and what exactly it means. And I really want to show you that those people who have been working with some of these NGOs that have been in some of these areas that are going to be affected, trust me, they are going to also be very, very much impacted on them. And at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing salaries of these people not being there, and I don't know what that means, but we shall be seeing issues of mental health rising. And I really want to show you that issues of mental health, where these entities have been very much instrumental as well, going to be affected. And all in all, we hope also really the countries will be devising also really other means to make sure that we are not highly impacted by this. But I really want to show you that the Secretary also really of State, Marco Rubio, has sent a cable seen by also CNN to also all U.S. diplomatic posts on Friday outlining the move, which threatens billions of dollars of funding also from the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development, that is USAID, for programs worldwide, where Uganda has been receiving about 1.8 billion US dollars. That's quite a huge amount, and that is how we are going to be also impacted when it comes to this move, which is an executive order issued by the U.S. President Donald Trump upon taking over office officially recently in there. And I hope at the end of the day, the African countries, which are mostly in the third world, definitely will also be making sure they also really tighten their belts for such a move also that is coming up also at a time where many of them are still struggling to stand on their own. And I hope it is time that Africa also really stands on its own. I hope it's possible. That goes also to all our leaders to make sure that issues of corruption, because corruption has been the main cause of where Africa has not been able to also rise to where it is. But I hope it's time that we put issues of corruption aside, and we now also really make sure that we start thinking of how we can stand on our own, because we all know how the US also has been helping us when it comes to funding of our budgets. We have been also borrowing a lot of monies from also the World Bank, and we know how US also has been a pillar in that area. And definitely with such a move also really, we hope at the end of the day that we are not also going to be impacted very, very much in there. Now, for assistance has been a target also from Republicans in Congress and Trump administration also officials, but the funding accounts for very little of also the overall U.S. budget and the scope of the executive order, and the subsequent cable has left humanitarian and the State Department officials reeling, and that means we shall be also following up on this discussion, and one of these days we shall be also bringing one of the officials to also really analyze more on this issue. And it's also some issues that came out yesterday. We were able to see that happening, but we hope at the end of the day that African countries must now also really make sure that also really they now stand on their own, to make sure that also really there's no also really very, very much bad impact also of this executive order. We should also really be thinking of how we shall be also really moving on without some of these issues. Now, leaving that discussion aside, in our neighborhood, that's the Democratic Republic of Congo, we are seeing an insurgency where a number of the officials and also really nationals of this country have also left their country, as we were able to see the M23 rebels capturing also really some of the towns in the DRC in there. But all in all, we hope our also really nationals who are in the Democratic Republic of Congo are safe, given the fact that Uganda does not have an embassy that is in the DRC. Quite also interesting. They are now fighting across the largest city in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, is still moving on, and we're able to also really see a number of officials and also really natives of the DRC fleeing their country, also the neighboring countries, to also really be safe in there. And we're able to see videos also of these officials carrying their goods and belongings also already on their backs, where we were able to see the children being carried in the backs, and amidst also already being also already moved by some of these also rebels. Also, it's really very, very much hard a moment, and also for the neighborhood, which also really still faces challenges of instability in there. But all in all, we hope our own living in this country are still safe, because we have a number of Ugandans working in the Democratic Republic of Congo in there, but we hope these ones also are very safe. Now, the rebels marched into Goma, that was early on Monday, and the Congolese troops also exchanged fire with the Rwandan military also across the border in the worst escalation of a long-running conflict for more than a decade. And if you look at the insurgency in DRC, it has actually taken more than a decade. Quite often we always talk about the issues of the M23. We also sometimes talk about other groups also that are destabilizing this country, but we hope at the end of the day we shall be seeing also the peace prevailing in this country once and for all. This is one of the biggest countries in Africa. If you talk about DRC, it's actually one of the biggest countries with a number of also tribes and with a huge population. But we hope at the end of the day these people are very safe, and we do not also want to see more lives being lost in there. We can still continue to pray for all those that are still also back in the countries, given the fact that also this is coming up at a time. which I must say is really, really wrong, given the fact that the US president in his foreign policy also really continues to sort of talk about some of these issues where we are going to be seeing also really funding being cut. I was able to interact with one of my friends yesterday. He asked me one question: where does this executive order leave the refugees? Let's talk about Uganda. Today we have a huge population of refugees that is from South Sudan, we have from DRC, and I do understand others also from Somalia who are all residing in this country who are taken as refugees. And we have been able to see most of the funding being channeled into refugee-led initiatives. Now that the US president in his foreign policy is also coming up with such moves, where does this now leave the refugees? I really want to say we shall be seeing a scenario where refugees will now be saying, it's better I go back and die in my country other than being killed in a foreign country because of hunger. Why am I saying this? You said World Food Program and many other initiatives have been also really a pillar in supporting this country. Now that we are going to be seeing the US also really pulling down when it comes to funding also for some of these organizations, what will this mean into some of these activities that have been mainly supported by some of these countries? What does this mean? I really want to assure you that this is going to be also really impacting, given the fact that I do understand that this money that has been given to some of these countries has been the taxpayers also really of the US. Now that the US president has come up with his own policy, that we are not going to be also really continuing with this, and I hope today this is also going to be very much vividly impacting on some of these countries that also have been residing into Uganda, where we have a number of officials and also really some of these nationals from these countries residing in this country as refugees, and many of them also have been dependent on the US also to support also from several initiatives in there. But we hope this also will be lifted in the 90 days also in there to make sure that more people do not die in this country as a result of sickness, as a result of hunger. All in all, we are still praying, and Africa also it is time for us to sort of be putting aside some of these initiatives, some of these files which I feel are very much unnecessary, to make sure that at the end of the day we move also at the same pace. We move also together as Africa to make sure that at the end of the day issues that have been dragging us behind are now put aside. And this is my prayer, and I hope at the end of the day it will be also visualized, and we shall be moving as Africa, and we shall be moving together as nationals. So now, if you look at this DRC, we were able to see a rebel alliance led by the ethnic Tutsi, also really that is Tutsi led M23, as said also had seized the lakeside city of more 2 million also really people, a major hub that is for displaced people, and 8 groups lying on the border with Rwanda, just occupied by the M23 2012 in there. Now, Lamakis said early on Monday that artillery fire also was directed at Goma city, and that is at the center also, and struck maternity hospital. And if you look at also some of these also attacks, then definitely you must condemn it. If people can attack the maternity hospital, how many mothers and the newborn babies are going to be also affected? And that is how dangerous it is for us to be talking about also some of these issues. Now, the UN mission in December had also 10,960 peacekeepers and 1,750 civilians in Congo, deployed mostly in the east. And Lamakis also saying non-essential staffs in the DRC we are being moved into Uganda. Lamakis also went on to say that the internet in Goma was cut on Monday, and phone service was patchy, as service also for water and electricity has been also disrupted in there. That means these people are not also accessing the basic needs, for instance water and electricity. And today internet also really, someone may also doubt this, but I want to show that today internet is also really part of the necessities. There are people who cannot also really live without the internet today. It is part of their life, and if at all we are seeing communication being cut, then definitely you will be knowing how dangerous it is. People will not also be in position to locate where the relatives are in terms of also really some of this displacement, because if bombings are taking place, I remember one of those stories my late grandmother who used to tell me is how they could run. Sometimes you run and you not meet also really your relatives, and this happened in our family where today one of my aunties cannot also be located. just because of war, and that is really at the end of the day something which also puts people in danger, where internet also is cut down. It becomes very, very much difficult, even if telephone services are being cut. Definitely people will not be able to ask where you have gone, where you could be. It becomes a challenge for them also really to be also really together in there. And I really want to show that families are going to be divided, and we hope at the end of the day peace should be able to prevail in this country within the shortest also time possible in there. And we must also condemn this, as so many things also have happened, and really so many things have continued to happen. And I will be also letting you know of some of these issues, and really we are still seeing the violence also already in the mineral-rich DRC as rebels also move into key city. And this is also where we are still also asking ourselves, what is still causing the insurgency in the DRC? As the viewer also, you can also be able to also share your thoughts and opinions on what also is causing this in the DRC, and what should be done, and who is to blame. Keep your comment coming through, and I will be in position to solely check through later on in there as we get to move on. And so many things also have continued to happen as we were able to see the release of the PLE results, and we were able to see some of the schools being excited as some of the districts we were busy wailing, and we were able to see really some of these districts in Western sub-region appearing in the category of the worst performing districts, where we had two districts from Western sub-region, where Madiokolo was together with Obongi as one of those districts that had the least performance of learners. And these are not only the districts, and it was most Western districts were able to also appear on the tail also of also these examinations in there. But we hope, we are now working hard to make sure that we change this, because if at all we as West Nile continue to also really be put behind the below bar in there, and then it becomes a great challenge where we are really asking ourselves where the future of our people will be. Because if at all other regions are topping, then for us as West Nile sub-region, where we were initially known as bright people, today we are seeing also our learners being in the tail. Then that leads me to a lot of questions which are also unanswered, in terms of also making sure that we know and we assess also what exactly also really could be causing this poor performance of learners in the Western sub-region. But all in all, we hope as stakeholders, we are joining hands to make sure that we put aside this myth that West Nile should always be in the tail. If you look at districts like Madiokolo, really it is absurd. And I was able to ask, what is causing this poor performance in this district, which is still a new district, where the potential for good performance is there. And I was able to also interact that one of the factors also that is causing poor performance in this district is the issue of the local derbies. Yes, we are still having discos which are still rampant. And this leaves me to one question on what exactly the authorities in there are doing to also make sure they bring down these issues of local derbies, as they are called, what also many people term as discos, in terms of happening in these districts. If you look at from Okolo up to Rigbo, the performance has not been well, where the whole district had also very few learners appearing in Division 1. Some of the schools in Arua City actually tripled the number of first grades already in this entire district. So that means we are not doing enough. As parents, let's avoid issues also of allowing our children engage in these local derbies, where people also really see this, organize these local derbies, and the authorities are doing nothing. Really, it leaves me with one question, so really, what also exactly awaits learners from this district? Definitely, we shall be knowing there's doom ahead of us if at all we not also do this. If at all we not work hard to address this, then at the end of the day, it will be our children to suffer in future. But all in all, let's avoid issues of discourse. Then another factor has been the issue of early marriage. Yes, people are getting married at the age of 15 years, at the age of 16 years, at the age of 20. Still, you are supposed to be within school. A 20-year-old person, I believe, in our setting of West Nile, you're supposed to be around senior 5 or senior 6. But if at all, we are now seeing you engaging and also becoming a father or a mother, it becomes also very much challenging for you to continue to engage in education, and that is another factor which we are also seeing. And then the support. How much is government extending when it comes to issues of support to some of these schools. How many teachers are being transferred from areas which are good performing to this district? Can it address the fact? Can it also change the results? These are some of these issues that what we feel should be done. And then the issue of private schools. Yes, some of the districts are said to be performing well because they have a number of private schools. Madiokolo, does not have a number of private schools, but we are still saying we are not also really going to be relying on this. What should be done to make sure that we change the results of Madiokolo? What should be done that we improve on the results of Obongi? And I do understand in Zombo district as well, the stakeholders were able to also really ask on the poor performance, because Zombo was also really among the districts that least performed in there, but we hope we shall be changing this. And I was able to also really see a number of the leaders asking questions, which I feel is very much good, and then they should be finding answers as well for making sure that next year we should be seeing West Nile districts also really top. There is exemption. We must compete with districts like Wakiso, we must compete with districts like Kampala, we must compete with Masaka to make sure that also really at the end of the day we have our learners also really speak for us. Because if the performance are poor, then this goes back to the parents. Many times these schools will be blaming us. Why? We tend to also refer our children away from these districts to other districts where the bright children are seen being moved away to from these districts to other districts where we see good results. I was able to see one of the lists also really for one of the schools that also performed well. And I was able to see names that are from West Nile, names that are for Alurus, names that are for Lubaras, names that are for Kakwas, names that are for other tribes, but within West Nile sub-region appearing in one of the districts which I wouldn't also want to mention, but all in all that shows that we are still seeing this happening. If you move to the backpack right now, you will also see this happening. Children are being moved from this region to other regions for education. That means we are not also really embracing our schools. And I really want to say at the end of the day, if we want to change the results, this is another area which we must also really address on. We must support our schools. You are paying millions and millions for some of those schools, but you also really pay the 50,000 or the 100,000 also in some of the schools. How do you expect then the schools to perform? How do you expect the teachers' welfare to be improved? This goes back to us that we are not doing enough when it comes to some of these areas in there, and this leads to the question on exactly what we are doing to make sure we change the results also of our region so in there. And it leaves me with pain. It leaves me also really in agony to also really see some of our schools really perform poorly like they did. Some of these schools in Arua City also it's the first grades, but we are saying next year, this year we must also change the results. Come next year, we want to see the results of this year really shining. We are still following up on, and we shall be moving some of these schools, and the teachers also really are being blamed that some of the times instead of being in classes, you are busy drinking nguli, you are busy drinking kwete, you are busy drinking beer. We are coming for you, and we are going to be exposing you, and we want to see results of West Nile changing. And I will be personally taking this initiative to make sure that I move into some of these schools where the teachers who will not be on the ground, who will be in some of these joints, we shall be exposing you, and we expect the authorities now to act, because it is not time for us to be lamenting that West Nile performed this and that, District A did this and that. It is time for us to be changing these grades. It's time for us to be changing the fact that we have been performing poorly, and that is really quite possible, and we must believe in ourselves. Let's make sure that issues of children reporting to school early is being implemented. Let's follow up on these children as parents. Let's make sure the teachers whom we are paying some of these little amounts also do something. We should avoid issues of thinking that the UP is there. And I really want to show you that this is one fact that is killing our schools in this country. I will openly say this. Many parents believe that the UPE is there for them to solely not pay school fees. When you are producing this child, when you are enjoying, was government there? Ask yourself as a parent, ask yourself as a mother this morning, when you are busy producing this child, were you producing it for UP? Were you producing this child for government? Then these are the questions that should be asked. Because this is one fact, and I was able to attend one of the annual PTA meetings of Arua Primary School. This issue very much surfaced. I was able to also see the pain of the school authorities that many times some of the parents don't want to pay school fees. They think government has done it for them all. Yes, government might be extending some of these also assistance in terms of the capitation grants, but it's not enough. And sometimes so this money is delayed. And that leaves also the school authorities with nothing. And I really want to show you that if at all we also leave the mindset of UP aside, if at all we pay our school fees timely, then we may see some of these results already changing. And I want to show you that the schools that are performing poorly, these are not the UP schools. These are the schools where parents are very much rigid. Let's change our mindset. Let's pay school fees. I speak this with bitter pain, and I really hope at the end of the day we change. And parents, let's change. Let's make sure that we pay school fees timely, and we must continue adhering to some of those also guidelines that schools continue to issue to us. Issues of assessments, monies that the teachers request from us, let's pay them. Let's make sure that our children are assessed timely to make sure that the results also really for this region improve. Because if at all our learners perform poorly, we are all put in that category. We are West Nilers, we are Northerners, we are Ugandans. We are going to be also in that kind of also bar of also being associated with poor performance. Yet some of us could actually see this changing, and where I will pause with that discussion, and I speak it bitterly, and I hope at the end of the day we take it positively to also act in there. And that is really, if at all we want to change the results of also some of our learners in this region in there. And that's really where I will put him with that discussion aside. And remember, the president, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is also on tour of Lango sub-region also to assess the impact of parish development model, where we are able to see him awarding also really the Lango model farmers with also some also benefits in there, where we were able to see him also yesterday recognizing and rewarding farmers also in the Lango sub-region for their dedication to improving their livelihoods through the parish development model, where Mr. Museveni also officially kicked off his one-week assessment tour of the PDM program in Lango sub-region yesterday, with also the launch of the PDM in 2022 in here. And if you look at the PDM today, some of the people are doing well, but others, and I hope you are not also a part of the others who chewed the money. Some people got the monies, and today you can hardly tell the impact of this 1 million. Many people, actually, the majority, I will say this, the majority of the people who received the PDM money utilized this money wrongly. And yet, when this program was being rolled, people came up with ideas, people came up with projects for which they were also to engage in. And I really hope at the end of the day, this is a money that you are aware of, that's a revolving fund, that you have to pay it back. So that me, who has not got the money, so that also my brother out there who is still poor, who has not got the money, also can receive this money to change his livelihood. The other also think that it's a money that government is giving for you to just chew. We are coming for you, and we hope at the end of the day, government also will be able to find alternatives and find means of making sure this money that people borrowed can be refunded. Now, during his visit, the President Museveni also celebrated the efforts of farmers, encouraging them to continue improving their livelihoods. And I really want to assure you that if at all you use this money very well, trust me, at the end of the day, we shall be seeing also you impacting, also changing your life. We are able to see him also awarding Rose Akol, a beneficiary from Kole Town Council, with shillings 10 million to help her purchase land and oxen for the agricultural production. Now, additionally, he directed that a borehole be constructed near her home also to benefit her family, surrounding community. And we're able to see Mr. Museveni emphasizing the importance of participation also in the country's livelihood initiatives, likening also to also a child learning to stand. And that's really something also we're able to see him also linking what exactly his idea was all about. And we hope at the end of the day, people also will be changing and making sure that they also really improve on their livelihoods, because government has done a number of these government programs that are meant to educate the masses out of poverty. I'll mention quite many: the Youth Livelihood, the Bonabaga Gawale, Ntandikwa, and many others. And now with the new baby on block, that's the PDM. We hope this time around the PDM will be working as a magic bullet to make the masses move out of the bar life into the money economy. Let's also see Uganda be called a rich country, where at the end of the day, where there's nobody called poor person. But if at all we stay in mindset that this is money for campaigns, then definitely we shall be remaining the way we are. People will be eating this 1 million within 1 week. It will be done, and at the end of the day, nothing will be changing, and we shall be seeing the status quo of many of the masses remaining, and that's really where I will be putting aside that discussion as we get move on with also really what's happening in the world of sports. We're just left with 5 minutes to wind up with the discussions, but within these 5 minutes, I will be letting you know what's happening in the world of sports, and I will be also touching on some of those stories international in there as Fete Emmanuel prepares to also come on board to give you what's happening in the world of Eolaza. And I really want to assure you that he is already ready to give you what's happening in the world of news to you, the viewer of Western Television. Now to look at what's happening in the world of sports, we are still seeing the Uganda Cup continuing, and I really want to assure you that the environment is actually getting tense as many teams, most especially those that are playing in the top tier of Uganda football, that's the Southern Uganda Premier League, as well as the 4 big leagues also already are preparing for the second leg of also these games. We are able to see Uganda Cup also continuing, where we are able to see shocks. Why do I say this so? We are able to see some of those big teams playing in the top tier of Ugandan football, that's Southern Uganda Premier League, and 4 big league being thrown out by regional clubs. That means Uganda Cup is not an easy game. If at all you are to encounter it, then you must move with also your eyes open in there. But that discussion will be coming through on the winter time. But still, in the world of sports, we are able to see Uganda's talisman, that is Dennis Omedi, scoring on his debut for his Rwandan side, that is APR, and we were able to see this happening yesterday. Is the man still keeps on proving that yes, indeed, he is a man of his own. We still continue to pray for him, and we hope at the end of the day he will be keeping and also making sure that Northern Uganda shines. And we hope as at the end of the day he will be making Uganda proud, as we're able to see the draws and the fixtures for the AFCON being released, where Uganda was put in one of those games, one of those groups which I must say is of danger. And we were able to also see many people asking themselves why our young baby country also could be put in that country in a group of also the danger zone in there, where we are placed in that is group also really group that is also in a group of danger, where that we are placed in Group C against countries like Nigeria, Tunisia, and our neighbors Tanzania. And really many people have expressed their also mixed reactions in terms of also these also games in there, where many people are still wondering where Uganda will be finishing. That discussion will be coming through on the winter time with Owen Ezaga and Lila Suzy from 2 to 3 p.m. And with that, we come to the end of today's show, as we also have to pave way for the Elders News team with Fete Emmanuel, whom I must say is already around the corner, and they can see him preparing to also come up on board to give you what's happening in the world of news. And with that, we come to the end of the show. I hope you had a wonderful time with us as we prepare to also come back tomorrow to let you know of what's happening in the country, and tomorrow we shall be seeing more of that happening. With that, we come to the end of the show. My name is Farish Majid. I want to wish you the very best. Up next is the Elders News Bulletin. I'm out until tomorrow. Have a good day.